You're sitting at your desk right now. Your bank account reads 47,382, and you feel nothing. You thought hitting this number would feel different, like something would click, like you'd finally feel rich or accomplished or something. Instead, you're just worried about the next 1,000. The goalposts moved. You're tired. You're wondering if any of this is even worth it. Here's what you don't know yet. You've just entered the hardest part of your entire financial life, and I can prove it with math. The first 50K will take you longer than the next 250K combined. That's not motivation talk. That's just math. And once you understand why, you stop blaming yourself for how painfully slow this feels. When people talk about wealth, they always show you the smooth line going up. A nice graph, compounding doing its magic. But the real story is messier. It's brutal at the start. Most people quit during this phase. Not because they're weak or lazy. They quit because the psychology is completely broken at the beginning, and literally nobody talks about it. You get told, start early. Compound interest is magic. Time in the market beats timing the market. Okay, fine. You start. You're 22. You're committed. You skip the Friday nights out. You meal prep chicken and rice for the whole week. You drive an old car with a check engine light that's been on for 2 years. You do this because you read that article, watched that YouTube video, and you actually bought in. 3 years pass. Your portfolio is 18,000. You open your statement and expect to feel something. Pride, wealth, validation. Instead, you feel exhausted because you know something the motivational posters don't mention. That 18,000 represents 3 actual years of sacrifice. Real Friday nights skipped. Real relationships that got awkward because you were always broke. Real stress every time your car made a weird noise and you couldn't afford to fix it. And how much of that 18,000 came from the market actually making you money? How much from compounding? Maybe 1,200. Everything else came from you, from your paycheck, from your discipline. So the market is rewarding 3 years of brutal sacrifice with 1,200. That's $400 a year, $33 a month. You could lose that in an Uber ride. Think about that for a second. You're being asked to give up real, present happiness for future gains that feel like absolutely nothing right now. That's not a math problem. That's a psychology problem. And this is where most people break. Now picture someone else. They're 35. They've been doing this for 13 years. Their portfolio is 250,000. That same 8 market return, it nets them 20,000 this year. That's an actual car. That's a real vacation. That's money they don't have to work overtime for. They're sleeping while the market works for them. Meanwhile, you're 25. You're working your ass off. You're stressed. You're tired. And the market is handing you 33 per month and asking you to celebrate it. Is it any wonder people quit? Here's what changed how I think about money. The beginning phase isn't supposed to feel rewarding. It's a filter. It separates the people who actually understand delayed gratification from the people who need a dopamine hit right now. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. The people who make it through, the ones who keep showing up when the returns feel like rounding errors, they're the only ones left at the finish line. Not because they're smarter, because literally everyone else quit and bought a nicer car instead. Now let me show you why 50K is the specific number that matters. At 50,000 invested with an 8 return, you earn 4,000 per year in passive income. That's 333 per month. Basically a part-time job that requires 0 hours. But here's where it gets real. If you wanted to earn 333 a month as actual income, you'd need a side gig. You'd trade 10 to 15 hours a month for that money. You'd burn through energy and mental space that you don't have. But at 50K, the market does it while you sleep. That's the moment everything shifts. Each time you double your money, your passive income doubles. But here's the key part. The amount you have to save to reach each milestone gets smaller and smaller as a percentage of your total wealth. You eventually reach a point, usually around 200K to 300K, where you stop being a saver and become an owner. The market does the heavy lifting. You just show up. But you can't get to 200K without surviving the 0 to 50K gauntlet first. And this gauntlet is psychological, not mathematical. To 50K, your money is starting to whisper. By 200K, it's shouting. By 500K, it's working harder than you ever will. When you hit 50K, something shifts in your brain that nobody ever explains. There's this specific moment, a real moment, when you stop being a saver and start being an owner. And these are completely different identities. Different ways of living. A saver is anxious all the time. They check their balance obsessively. They feel the weight of every dollar because they earned that money. Their brain is always like, money is hard to get. I need to protect this. An owner is calm. They check their balance once a quarter. They feel the ease of knowing that money is literally working for them while they do other things. Their brain switches to, this machine is running. It's making money. I don't need to worry. Most people never make this switch because they quit before it's even possible. Here's a behavioral economics thing that blew my mind. We feel losses about twice as intensely as gains. A 1,000 loss hurts way more than a 1,000 gain feels good. But at 50K, something changes. The compounding starts to outpace your ability to feel loss. The passive income becomes real enough that market volatility stops feeling like a threat to your survival. When you have 10,000 saved, a 10 market drop feels catastrophic. You work 2 years for that money. A bad year steals your sleep. When you have 500,000 saved, a 10 drop is 50,000. That sounds bigger, but psychologically, it barely registers, because you earned 40,000 in passive income that year anyway. The loss is just cutting into your gains instead of eating your survival fund. Same percentage drop. Completely different emotional weight. Around 50K to 75K, something clicks. Before 50K, you check your balance every week. You refresh your brokerage app constantly. You read market news obsessively because you're trying to protect something fragile that you built with your bare hands. After 50K, you check your balance once a quarter. You stop reading market news because you realize it doesn't actually matter. You're not trying to protect your money anymore. You're trying to let it work. This isn't about the number itself. It's about the ratio. It's about when your passive income becomes large enough that it actually competes for your attention. Right now, if you earn 50,000 a year from work and you have a 50,000 portfolio earning 4,000 a year, your brain categorizes that as savings. But when you have 200,000 earning 16,000 a year, your brain categorizes it differently. It's not savings anymore. It's a thing that produces. It's a business. It's real. That's the shift. Let's actually talk about what this means in your real life. Not percentages. Not theory. You're 26 years old. You have 50K saved. You make 50,000 a year. Your job sucks. Your boss is annoying. You hate the commute. You lie in bed on Sunday nights with that knot in your stomach. But something changed. You now have 4,000 a year coming in from your portfolio. It's not much, but it's something. It means if you completely lose it tomorrow, if you have a breakdown and quit, you could survive an extra month just from portfolio income. You're not one emergency away from disaster anymore. It means you can negotiate. You can tell your boss no on things that used to make you compliant. You can take a lower-paying job that makes you happier because you have a cushion. When raise time comes around, you're not desperate. You're not willing to take any offer. You have optionality. That's not financial. That's life-changing. Now jump ahead. You're 35. You have 250,000. You make 70,000 a year. Your passive income is 20,000 per year. That's basically a part-time income that requires zero work. What does that actually mean? You could take a real sabbatical. Not 2 weeks off. A real year off. You could write a book, start a business, spend time with family, retrain for a career you actually want. Live modestly on your passive income while you figure out what matters. Most people at 35 feel trapped. Like they've made permanent life choices and now they're stuck. You're not stuck. You have passive income. You have breathing room. And if you keep working, something else changes. You stop being afraid. You're not clawing for raises. You're not staying in a bad situation because you're desperate. You're working because you choose to, and that changes everything about the quality of your work. Jump ahead one more time. You're 45. You have 500,000. You make 90,000 a year. Your passive income is 40,000. That's more than half your salary. This is the moment you realize you're not really an employee anymore. You're a business owner who happens to have a job. You could cut your hours in half and maintain your lifestyle. You could retire in 10 years with zero doubt. You could take risks in your career that regular employees can't take. You have actual freedom. But here's the objection. I know you're thinking, Harry, 4,000 a year sounds nice, but it doesn't actually change my life at 50K. You're thinking about it wrong. The 4,000 isn't the point. The point is that 4,000 represents the moment the machine started. The moment you proved to yourself that you could save consistently without seeing massive payoffs. The moment compounding actually switched on. To 50K, compounding isn't loud yet, but it's real. It's working. In 5 more years at 100K, that passive income is 8,000. Now it's talking. In 10 years at 200K, it's 16,000. Now it's shouting. The first 50K isn't valuable because of the money it produces. It's valuable because it's proof of concept. It's you saying to yourself, I can actually do this. I can stick to a system for 5 years without seeing massive rewards. That's the superpower. Let me show you what happens to the people who don't make it past 50K. You're 26. You've saved $35,000 over 3 years. You're exhausted. You're frustrated. The market returned 8 this year, and you earned $2,800 in passive income. Felt like nothing. You do the math. At this rate, you won't hit 100K until you're 35. 10 more years of rice and chicken. 10 more years of saying no to everyone. 10 more years driving a car you hate. You decide it's not worth it. You quit. You take that $35,000 and use some of it for a car payment. Or a vacation. Or you just let yourself breathe and stop saving so aggressively. Now you're 45. You have $80,000 saved. You're exhausted from working. Your boss is still annoying. Your commute still sucks. You have basically no passive income. You're trapped. The person who didn't quit? They're 45 with $500,000. They have $40,000 a year in passive income. They could retire in 10 years if they wanted. Same job, same earnings, same effort. The only difference is they survived the 0 to 50K phase when it felt impossible. But the real cost isn't even the money. It's the opportunity cost of not becoming an owner. At 165K, you're still a worker. You still need your job. You still have to show up. At 500K, you're an owner. You can negotiate. You can leave. You can take real risks. That's a fundamentally different life. When you quit early, you don't just lose the money. You lose the identity shift. You stay stuck in saver mode forever. Anxious, protective, afraid. Because your brain never gets to experience the moment when the machine actually switched on. When compounding stopped being theory and became real. You quit right before the payoff. Remember that moment at the beginning? You hit 47,382 and felt nothing? That's the moment most people quit. They think, this is taking forever. The money barely grows. Maybe I should just enjoy my life now. But here's what actually happens in that moment. You're closest to the threshold. You're maybe a few months away from 50K. A few months away from the psychology shifting. A few months away from the machine starting to hum. And if you quit, you'll spend the next 20 years wondering what would have happened if you just pushed through for a few more months. I'm not saying you need to live like a monk forever, but I am saying, if you quit during the 0 to 50K phase, you're quitting right before the payoff. Right before the hard part becomes easy. Don't be that person. If you haven't started, here's what I want you to do this week. Open a brokerage account. Seriously. Spend 20 minutes today. Vanguard, Fidelity, wherever. Don't even fund it yet. Just create it. Why? Because the hardest part isn't the money. It's starting. It's deciding that you're going to be the kind of person who does this. Once the account exists, funding it becomes automatic. Find $400 a month. Don't overhaul your life. Just find it. Skip one subscription. Eat out one fewer time a month. It's in the cracks of your budget. Set up automatic transfers on payday. Make the money move before you can spend it. Your brain can't miss what it never sees. Stop checking your balance every week. I know this sounds weird, but constant checking creates anxiety. You're building a machine that runs on its own. Switch to monthly, then quarterly, then annually. Stop thinking of this as saving. You're not saving. You're investing in optionality. You're not sacrificing for some abstract future. You're buying freedom. You're buying the ability to tell your boss no. You're buying the ability to take time off. You're buying the ability to leave a bad situation without panic. Every $400 you move into your portfolio is freedom money. That changes how it feels. Before, I have to save $400 this month. This sucks. After, I'm buying $400 of freedom this month. That feels good. Same action. Completely different emotional experience. If you're already in the 20K to 50K range, you're in the hardest part. I know it feels slow. I know the passive income feels like nothing. But here's what I want you to know, you're almost through it. In 2 more years, you'll hit 50K. And the moment you do, everything shifts. The psychology changes. The trajectory becomes real. You don't need to change anything. You just need to not quit. If you're past 50K, you know what I'm talking about. You remember when it felt impossible. You remember when compounding felt like a lie. Now you're living proof that it wasn't. If you know someone in the 0 to 50K phase, someone tired, someone thinking about quitting, send them this. Be the person who reminds them they're almost through it. Be the person who says, I know it feels slow. I know it feels impossible. But trust the math. It works. That's how we actually build a culture where people make it past the hard part. Here's my challenge to you. Sit with this one. Same job. Same income. Same effort. The only difference is what you did during the 0 to 50K phase. Which version of you do you want to be? That's not a rhetorical question. That's the question that should keep you going when it gets hard. The first 50K is the hardest money you'll ever make. The compounding doesn't feel real. The passive income is too small. Your brain is fighting biology. The reward gap between effort and results is massive. But at 50K, the machine starts to hum. The passive income becomes real. The psychology shifts from saver to owner. Suddenly, the next 250K doesn't feel impossible. It feels inevitable. The people who make it to 50K, the ones who survive, they almost always keep going. Because they've tasted the shift. They know what's on the other side. The people who quit at 35K or 40K, they never see it. They'll spend 20 years wondering what would have happened if they just pushed through. Don't quit at 47K and spend your life as a worker. Push through to 50K and start your life as an owner. If this shifted how you see money, if this made you realize the hard part isn't actually hard, it just feels hard, smash that like button. I read every like. I know when something lands. Drop a comment with your number. Where are you right now? Are you at 0 trying to figure out how to start? 25K wondering if it's worth pushing through? Past 50K and want to share what changed? Tell me. Subscribe to Stendoc. We drop videos every week on behavioral finance, psychological thresholds, practical freedom. This channel is for people who want calm, not chaos. Math, not hype. If you're somewhere in the 0 to 50K range, bookmark this video. In a year when it gets hard, when you want to quit, come back. Watch the part about what happens if you ignore this. Remind yourself you're almost through. You're almost to the other side. 9 years from now, you'll wake up. You'll either be grateful you pushed through the hard part, or you'll regret that you quit when you were so close. 9 years passes the same way either way. Make it count. I'll see you in the next one.